tribal council members and visitors, guests. Thanks for being here today. My name is Mike Flom. I work as park superintendent at Badlands National Park. I've been the park superintendent there now for about 5 months. I started on the 1st of September. We're here today to present some information and mostly to hear from you about the proposed fee increase at Badlands National Park. And we'll talk more about that in a second, but I'd like the other folks from the National Park Service here today to briefly introduce themselves.
My name is Dwayne Travis. I'm the Chief of Maintenance, retired Air Force, 20 years, been started in the park, and I've been working for the park for about 7. Here at Badlands since June.
Good afternoon, Tribal Council, local community members, and Cleve, good afternoon. My name is Casey Osbeck. I'm the Chief Park Ranger. I've been at Badlands for roughly, 5 years. Been in the National Park Service now for just finished 2 decades and 9 park assignments. A native of Southeast Wyoming from Torrington. And I oversee all of the law enforcement and emergency services, and then sort of from a global perspective, oversee the collection of the fees as well. So again, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us down here at Pine Ridge.
And Holly Fetzer, I'm the fee program manager at Badlands. I just started in October of last year, so brand new, pretty excited to be here. Prior to that, I started with the Park Service in 2004. Glad to be back in South Dakota, my home state.
So I'm going to make a few discussion points here, and then Holly is going to help present a really quite short PowerPoint that we hope gives you a basis of information about the proposed fee increase. But as I said, we're mostly here to hear from you. We do want to know what your comments are about this proposal. The proposal is not to go into effect until a year from now, essentially, January 1st, 2017. This would be the first fee increase at Badlands National Park since 2007. So by the time it would go into effect, it will have been 10 years. This is not being done at Badlands National Park alone. Fee increases are being looked at across the entire national park system, and it's a coordinated effort in an attempt to make the fees as consistent as possible from one park to the next based on sort of the size and level and visitation of that park. And Holly's going to explain a little more. So it really is an attempt by the National Park Service to compare apples to apples, to have a fee that would be similar for the same value and experience of park level somewhere else in the United States. This has been in process planning for a while. I've been here as park superintendent for 5 months. This has been in process at Badlands for a year or more. We wanted to take it to the public well in advance of the time that it would be implemented, so we know what people think. So the fees at Badlands are used for 2 purposes. 80% of the fees that we collect stay locally, if you will, at the national park and the Oglala Sioux tribe. There's a formula that was established by the stemming from the 1968 law that established the South Unit, and then the follow-on 1976 memorandum of agreement between the National Park Service and the tribe, wherein the tribe receives a certain amount of each of one category of single vehicle entry. So the revenue that the Park Service gets from these fees is used for one of 2 purposes. It's either for deferred maintenance on our infrastructure, buildings, roads, trails, campgrounds, whatever it might be, or it's used for projects or programs that have a direct benefit to park visitors. Those are the only two purposes for which the money can be used by National Park Service policy. And then the tribe's cut is transferred to the Oglala Sioux Park and Recreation Authority for park and recreation purposes across the reservation. So it's important that for us that you know that a majority of the money stays in the local area and is used for purposes to benefit the resources and the visitors locally. We have other sources of funding for the park, of course. We have a base budget that comes from the federal government of something just over $4 million a year. But we count on the fee revenue to do lots of the projects that need to be done. So we estimate, and these are just projections, that there would be approximately $550,000 in new revenue each year for the park if this fee is implemented, and approximately $350,000 a year in new revenue each year for the tribe if this is implemented. These are purely estimates. If visitation is either way more than we project or way less than we project, obviously these numbers would easily change. But we tried to be conservative in estimating. The other point I'd like to make, well, a couple more about funding. We have estimated approximately $17.5 million worth of deferred maintenance at the park, and this money would be used systematically to whittle away at that backlog, if you will. You know, it would take us a while to get there, clearly, and by then something new happens that we need to work on, but it would make a meaningful difference. And then the last point I'd like to make about the finances is we have pretty good peer-reviewed studies that show that there's about $10 return to local and regional economies for every $1 that we spend on managing national parks. The reality is if we do a really good job taking great care of these places and provide outstanding opportunities for visitors, people come, they stay, and by the way, they spend some money in the area. So there is that additional economic benefit besides the money spent on the projects of just visitor benefit and keeping them here longer. So the money that we spend, usually, you know, local contractors are hired for projects. Mostly local people are hired for events and staffing. So this is an important thing for us. Again, it's a year away. The upgrades in the fees for single vehicles go from 15 to 25. Holly's going to show you a chart. That's a 67% increase. That's a significant increase. I'm not trying to downplay that. If we don't get the fee increase now, we don't know when the next opportunity would be. So we have to be thinking ahead 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years. What's the value of that visit to Badlands National Park going to be? If we don't change the fee now, how will it appear in 5 or 10 years? So again, thank you for the opportunity to be here to talk. I'm going to turn it over to Holly Fetzer to do a very brief PowerPoint, and then we're going to open it up to hear your comments. Thank you.
Am I okay to stay here, or do I need to be up the? Can you hear me? All right. Can you guys see the screen over there? You can come closer if you need to, but again, I would just echo what Mike said. This is this public scoping process, this feedback process is really central to our mission in the fee increase proposal. So thank you so much for being here today. And
could you use the mic for the recording guys so they can hear?
Is that better for you?
It doesn't matter. I got the boom mic there. So
Okay.
it should be okay.
Okay, and you can.
Watch on the TV, it really sounds funny. So use the mic, you can do that.
It's up to
I
you.
can. I don't know if our clicker will work over there, but I'll try it. Okay, it does work. So, anyways, throughout this presentation, it's really important to keep in mind that our sole funding source at the park is not entrance fees. So, although it's not our sole funding source, it is a very important funding source. And this is the vision statement for the National Park Service fee program. And so the really key point to the vision statement is that money that we collect from entrance fees is there's extremely specific criteria on how that can be spent. And the key part of that is that there must be a direct visitor benefit to any project money that fees are used for. So that's really important to keep in mind as we're going through this. And now we'll go through a brief history of fees, and I'll go through this fairly quickly, but it is really interesting to look at how the Park Service has changed management-wise and how the fees have really evolved since the beginning of the Park Service. At Badlands specifically, we started collecting fees in 1976. And so if you look at the opportunities that we have available today for visitors compared to 1976, you can really see a huge improvement in the visitor opportunities that we've been able to offer using that fee money. And throughout the Park Service's 100-year history, and yes, this is our centennial year, so the Park Service was started in 1916, so here we are in 2016 celebrating our 100th birthday. So it's a very exciting year for the Park Service. Throughout those 100 years, there's really been two main schools of thought on how parks should be funded. The one extreme side says that taxes should pay 100% of the park funding. The other side says visitors who choose to use parks should pay 100% of the funding. And so what happened in 1965 is this Land and Water Conservation Fund Act was passed. And so what that really did was to take those two extreme viewpoints and kind of meld them together and create this twofold approach that funds the parks, so that visitors that choose to use the parks, we're keeping them affordable, but taxpayers that are choosing not to use the parks aren't burdened by those fees. And over the next 2 decades, this Land and Water Conservation Fund Act continued to evolve and be added to and really get specific about how that money could be used. And so in 1996, Congress created that Recreational Fee Demonstration Program. And you've maybe heard of it before. It's oftentimes called the Fee Demo Program. And you'll still see signs throughout public lands that say, Fee Demo, your money at work, just demonstrating how the money is being used on these visitor opportunity projects. And that brings us right up until 2004 when the Federal Lands Recreation Enhancement Act was passed. And so that really built on those same philosophies, showing the direct visitor use benefit, but specifically it stated that 80% of the fees collected at a site must stay right at that site and be used for projects at that site. So really key part of that legislation. Another part of the FLRIA, it's sometimes called the 2004 Act, created this pass system that we still offer today. And then another thing that's central to our fee program is these fee-free days. And throughout the year, we'll offer several different days where we just waive entrance fees. So those are really great things to keep in mind. And then this kind of shows you what Mike was talking about with this being a national effort, Park Service-wide, to really make fees consistent. And so Badlands falls right under Category 3 there, so you can follow across to see where those different categories fall into. And this next slide will show you some examples of other park units that fit into different categories. So like Devil's Tower and Pipestone, those would be considered a Category 1. Colorado National Monument and Little Bighorn would be Category 2. And then, like I said, Badlands is in Category 3, so we fit in right with Theodore Roosevelt National Park and Mount Rainier National Park. And then Category 4 there is the Yellowstone National Park, Rocky Mountain. Those would fit into the highest tier. All right, so now specifically looking at our fees from 2007, like Mike said, that was the last time that we increased our fees. And so this year, we'll be charging the fees on the left-hand side there. Now, if this proposal is implemented, we would be changing to the fees on the right-hand side. So you can see how it breaks down by category there. Again, our most popular category is the private vehicle, so that would go from 15 to 25. All right, and then another thing we want to highlight is what specifically what this money is used for at Badlands. So here's some pictures of projects that have been completed in the past years using project fee money. And then we're going to look at a few more projects. So of course the Bighorn Sheep research and reintroduction project has been funded by fee money, and so that gives visitors a really neat opportunity to be viewing wildlife as they come to visit the park. And same goes for the reintroduction of the black-footed ferret. Again, really popular with visitors, those wildlife viewing opportunities. And then, of course, maintaining the prairie ecosystem at the park is really central to the visitor experience. So these are some of the different ways that we manage that prairie ecosystem. A lot of our trails are funded by rec fee money, along with these pictures and but the like the wayside exhibits and the interpretive signs that are along the trails. And then this is another really popular opportunity for visitors. This is at our the Ben Rifle Visitor Center. It's called the Fossil Preparation Lab, and that's a really neat way for visitors to get up and close and personal with live scientists that are doing these fossil preparations. So that's been really popular. That's open in the summer months right in the visitor center. Another picture of the Fossil Prep Lab. And then you've maybe heard of the Sabre site fossil excavation. That was taking place right outside of the visitor center. So again, a really neat for visitors to see a live excavation going on right at, next to the visitor center. So really popular project we were able to fund. And this is the saber-tooth cat that was found at the Sabre site. And then some of our other projects have included being able to upgrade our sewer system and our water system. And again, with the trail system, these boardwalks that get visitors out into the prairie have been really neat projects we've been able to fund. This is one of our overlooks, so being able to provide access to these amazing overlooks is really important. Again, another trail project we were able to fund. This is the Cedar Pass Lodge, so the rehabilitation of those cabins. And an interior view at the Cedar Pass Lodge cabins. So those are projects we've completed in the past. Now this is a small sampling of current and future projects that we would like to be able to fund using this fee money. And so we'll look at some pictures of those. Of course, ongoing maintenance and upkeep of our roads is a major service we can provide to visitors. Yep, they're constant in battle. And of course, keeping visitors safe with striping the roads. This is a project we would like to do in the next few years at the Cedar Pass Campground, upgrading the water system. And then of course the wayside exhibits, being able to maintain those and upgrade them as needed. And this kind of outlines what Mike talked about with our projections for what the annual revenue increase would bring potentially. And again, 55% of that revenue is used to decrease our $17.5 million deferred maintenance costs. So kind of spells that out. All right, and so where we're at today is we're right in the middle of the public scoping process. And so how this works is we will, at the end of the public scoping process, which ends March 1st of this year, we'll take all of the feedback, all of the comments we've heard, all of the letters we've gotten, all of the social media comments that we've gotten. We'll take all of those, consolidate, and then analyze that, all that feedback. And from there, based on that analysis, we'll make a recommendation if a fee increase should be implemented, how it should be implemented. So, like I said, we're right in the middle of that period. So, if you want to say something today, if you have a comment or question, we'll definitely take that onto the record. Otherwise, if you think of something in the next few days, you're more than welcome to go to this website and enter your comments right online. And with that, again, I would just thank you for participating today, and we would like to open up the floor for discussion. Definitely take any questions that you have and or listen to comments.
So mostly we want to hear from you, what you think about this, but have at it.
What do you think, you guys?
I believe it's more money for the tribe. We can look at it like that. Although it is quite an increase, and we do live in a poor area, and that may cause some people to avoid going that way. That big of a jump. But again, you haven't increased your for 10 years, so that could be part of the justification for it. So the bottom line is, I look at it for more money for the tribe, so it can't be all bad.
Yeah, and clearly it would be more money. How much exactly, I don't know. It could be as low as 250,000. It could be as high as 500,000. But anyway, yes, Chancy.
When you say that the money goes back into building, back into the park, is there any plans on building any more development into the south unit? You know, a new park ranger station or overlook, or I know Reed Robinson was here a couple times. We talked about an overlook at Red Shirt, things like that.
Yeah, well, the three projects that we have submitted into our system for funding are a new visitor center at where the current White River Visitor Center sits, a new, improved, better, bigger, more really, in keeping with that great place, visitor center. An improved overlook at Red Shirt Table, and I know we have some land ownership issues that we would have to work through there, but a new overlook that would be safer, accommodate more vehicles, be more inviting, maybe have some more educational material with it. And that, of course, everybody knows. I mean, that's just a spectacular place. And a backcountry type of trail in the South Unit. The first preferred location is in the area of Cedar Butte, just west of the White River Visitor Center. So, Chancey, those are the three projects for the South Unit that we have submitted. It's possible that some of those could be funded through this kind of funding, but right now we're seeking other funding for that. And then on down the line, as long as I'm here as park superintendent, I really would like to work with the tribal council, the tribal government, the lands committee, OSPRA, whomever, to see if there's a consensus on what, if anything else, should we be doing at the South Unit. I don't know. Ed is our chief of maintenance, a facility manager. Ed, do you want to add anything to those South Unit projects? Did I hit enough of the highlight?
I think you hit the highlights, Mike. Those were the main three that Reed Robinson have brought up as well. So.
But we're very open. I'm really interested in what the tribe thinks other reasonable development at the South Unit would be. But that's where we started, and the funding isn't there yet. The approval isn't there, but we got to start somewhere by requesting. So.
I know I have a real interest in the Red Shirt overlook. I think that's beautiful. I mean, it's a phenomenal, view. In my 5 years that I've been here, I've been involved in a number of garbage cleanups and that kind of thing. And that's one of the challenges I think with Red Shirt overlook is, it'd be great to do a prescribed burn in there with the BIA at some point. There's a lot of we've pulled cars out of there before, engine parts, that kind of thing. But I think if it, as Mike indicated, if it was cleaned up, it's a beautiful area down there. That's one of I think it's just so sacred down there. So, that's something I'll highlight there. But I think it's going to take some work too to keep it, keep it going. So.
Red Shirt, I think probably it wouldn't be too hard for me to get agreement in this country, but Badlands is like a world-class landscape. It is, both the South and the North Unit, and it's just incredible. And of course we see that in the faces of and the comments of first-time park visitors who are just blown away. And frankly, we don't get as many of those visitors into the south unit, but those who do make it are you know, awestruck with what you know, with what the country is.
I know you said you did the wall and interior and a few other towns already. What was some of their concerns or comments, I guess, or concern? Most of
Yeah,
them.
I'll try to do it briefly. There's some concern about the level of the increase. Even though it will have been 10 years, there's still some concern about that. There have been some comments that maybe we ought to consider phasing the increase in over a period of a year or two. There's been some concern about the motorcycle fee, which is doubling, as opposed to the sedan or the van, which is only going up 67%. And there's concern that there would be people who wouldn't come to the park because of the new fee. That, in a nutshell.
Right, I think another question that's been common is whether or not this is just Badlands or if it's a Park Service wide, and I think that is important to keep in mind that it's a national effort, it's not just us randomly deciding to raise our fees. And we're kind of on the tail end. Some of the parks have already done the public scoping process and done an implementation, and they've already found that not only has their visitation not dropped off, but it's actually increased this past summer.
So
that
for
is
instance,
different.
following up, Yellowstone National Park increased their fee a year ago, and they had a record year of visitation during the next year. Of course, you know, Yellowstone attracts people from all over the world, and probably they're not going to be turned away by a few dollars of a fee increase. So my history with the Park Service says that if there is what I call resistance to the fees, it's not very big and it doesn't last very long, but there could be. And then I would say also, Chancey, I think there's been a general acknowledgement that people think that the money would be put to good use, that we've heard. So, but yeah, there's been some concern.
In 2000, I think it was 2008, we determined just from statistics wise, the last fee increase, we were down maybe like 40,000 visitors, wasn't it? Something like that.
But you can't even say that was due to the
But
fee
yeah, we
increase.
can't even say it was due to the fee.
Because we're up or
increase,
down a
so-
few thousand every year.
Yeah, so you're talking over 1 million visitors, you know, so.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
I have a few comments to make. I'm Anita Ekaby, and I was on the I don't know, the board or whatever that we had set up to work on the South Unit to create some for our tribe and our people, and I think we did. I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to read the general management plan.
I have.
And there are some things in there that need to be changed along with the bill. But as far as the South Unit up there on Red Shirt, and that was a part of it, was the lookout and building up the visitor center and even adding maybe another home down there, you know, for someone to live. And for our park rangers to be hired within our tribe. You know, and from what I understand right now is that we don't have any rangers out there, and the Badlands National Park hasn't hired any or isn't going to. But we need them because since the tribal council knocked down our resolution to go forward with that, and there are things in there in that bill that need to be changed. I'm not saying it's a perfect bill, or even the general management plan, but that would have given our tribe the opportunity to develop and make something for our people. There were over 800 and some families that were run off by the government. You know, but this was a start to start getting some kind of revenue for them and for the other families that have moved off, some Rosebud, California, all over. You know, but right now it's not happening. But I don't believe it's a dead issue. But I would like to see some rangers out there that would oversee it and keep these people from going in there and taking the fossils and selling them, and that's happening. So I don't know what your plans are to hire. I know some people here that are good, hard-working people.
Well, thank you for your comments. You obviously know, you have good information. You know a lot about that background. And yes, right now we don't have a ranger station there. Our intent is to figure out how to station a person there again. And Chief Ranger Casey Osbeck is working on that on a daily basis. And I believe we will have somebody there again. And I hate to say it does become a little bit about money and budget, but it's also about priorities. And our budgets have been relatively stagnant for a number of years, eroding away our spending power. My hope is that we're able to start with one ranger position at that south unit within a reasonable amount of time. It's not a dead issue. It's not gone forever. But we're working on it, and funding is part of it. And I agree with you. I think from what I see, the opportunities at the south unit to increase visitation with a few different levels of facilities and services are tremendous. And I think there would be a big economic impact. And we just have to figure out, and since I'm relatively new here, what does this cooperative management look like for the tribe? And how can the National Park Service not only just support it, but be right there with you on it? And so I'm going to be all ears as to what the tribe thinks we ought to be doing in the South Unit, not just for facilities, but for staffing and programs, and trying to make it happen. But do you have more
I just
comments?
have another, on the bike riding too, that was one of the things that we didn't want no bike trails or bikes up there. That was we went out and did public meetings, and the consensus was they did not want motorcycles out there. So that was one of the things. And the other thing is, they say the tribe, but a lot of times our government makes decisions that don't include us, or we don't have a say in them. And I think it's still a good idea to get out to the people. It needs to happen. And we don't agree with the government 100% either. And you probably don't agree with us, but it's something that I know the people in the last council wanted a referendum on it. That never happened. But I think if this council would sit down and give 2 days to just that issue and read that whole general management plan, I know it's about that thick. And but there's some good things in there, and some things need to be changed, but it's something that we worked on for over 9 years.
One of the items that I'll say is when I started in January of 2011, I've had the opportunity to work. Gosh, I've worked for at least 4 superintendents in the 5 years that I've been. And one of the challenges I think just in that linear time frame has been me as a chief ranger. I mean, obviously I work for Mike, in the superintendent's office, but it's been tough to balance both the north unit operations and the south unit operations because it's one park, but they're so different as far as landscape. We have a lot of different emergency service and protection responsibilities. It's, as I guess in the Park Service language, the north unit's more front country. It's more interface with a lot of visitors passing through very quickly. And in the south unit, it's more what we would call, I guess, backcountry operations, the protection of the fossils, the wildlife, that kind of thing. And I think it's been tough for me because in the 20 years I've been in service in 9 assignments, to take the checkbook with a certain amount of money and say, okay, how many folks do I need in the north unit versus the south unit, and try to assess that. And I noticed one of the concerns that was brought up, though there are quite a few questions that Mike has, we had opened an announcement for the south unit to try to refill, but I just didn't have a broad enough scope of folks, so we didn't hire off that list, and then I refocused on the north unit, because I'm down to basically 3 of us in the north unit to cover 244,000 acres. So I tried to announce for a north unit recruitment, and I didn't get enough applicants. So now we're going to try to reassess the south unit, and then try to announce again that way. So it's one of those deals where I think it's valid concerns that are being generated, but I guess what I want to relay to the tribal council and the community is we're definitely doing a 360 assessment to handle both sides of the park. And that's my goal, as well as Mike and the management team, is to holistically look at it, because we know there's issues. I mean, the 5 years I've been here, we know that there's commercial fossil poaching going on. That is theft from the tribe, under the 2009 Paleontological Resource Protection Act, which is wonderful. We now have the teeth to go after folks who are commercially poaching these irreplaceable, treasures. We didn't have that before. So I think that, I don't want to, forgive me, I'm going on, on and on, but the main item, I guess, to go away with is we're sincerely looking at it. And I think that, as Mike mentioned, one of my assignments is to get some folks, hopefully not just one ranger, but really from a safety standpoint. And Everett can attest to this from his police department days. We need multiple rangers down there, plus our assistance from our brothers and sisters in the Oglala Sioux Parks and Rec Authority, because we jointly work with OSPRA as well as OST Police Department. So, and then with the dirt bikes, and I can't go into detail too much, but we've had some ongoing investigations down there with dirt bikes in the South Unit, near Red Shirt, that kind of thing. So we're definitely keeping an eye on those off-road issues, just as we are with the huge amount of garbage that's being dumped and that kind of thing. So it's, rest assured, we're keeping an eye on it. But as always, it just takes time.
So to hire a person, would you take recommendations? Are you the new
I'm the
superintendent?
new park superintendent, Mike,
Oh,
yes.
oh, hi.
Hi, Mike Flock. Nice to
I
meet
worked
you.
with the other ones, Paige and
Eric,
yeah,
yes.
good people. Well, would they take recommendations from the tribe or from, how do you advertise it? Is it online?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's all through USA Jobs. There's a standard hiring in Mike, and can go into more detail, but as all of us, we have to apply through USA Jobs. It's a standard government website for employment. We do hire some employees contiguous, so the local area, like for the feed collection and that kind of thing, they're hired from the local area. But for law enforcement, there's a huge amount of red tape, of course, liability-wise, and we send folks through 7 months, believe it or not, of training where they got to go to Glencoe to Brunswick, Georgia, for 4 months, and then we send them out to another national park for field training. So we try to do our best to recruit from the local area with law enforcement, but it's tricky because they don't go to Pier. They don't go to the state academy. I guess your tribal officers, some of those folks do go to Artesia, New Mexico, which would be another avenue of flood season. But to answer your question, Anita, I mean, we would love to recruit from the local area, but those individuals would have to meet the standards, and they got to be under 37 years of age. There's all kinds of red tape attached to it. So irregardless if you're tribal, the C2, whatever you are, you have to meet those standards. So just like the DIA.
Yes, sir.
Can I go?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that.
So anytime, give us a call. If you know of folks that are interested or.
If you'll bear with me, I got a 2-hour speech here prepared. So.
My hands are getting
Yeah. My name is Everett Littlewhiteman. I'm born and raised here in Pine Ridge, Kyle. I spent 48 years in law enforcement, all my adult life.